Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to crumble!
I'm Joshua Kemble, and welcome to Joshua Kemble's Livestream. I've been a freelance illustrator and graphic designer for over 20 years. I was an art director for 9 years. And when I'm not art directing and working on illustrations and graphic designs, I'm working on comic books and graphic novels, and that's usually what I do during my streams. And while conversations can go all over the place on this stream, from spicy and entertaining to goofy and silly, one thing stays consistent throughout every stream. I'll always be working on art. So pull up a chair, get your art supplies out, and get ready for an entertaining show that'll keep you company while you work on your own personal art projects. This is Joshua Kemble's Art Stream. All right, welcome to my live stream. I'm Joshua Kemble, and I am working on a graphic novel called Not Death But Love, The Strange Supernatural Story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning, which is a historical fiction graphic novel about the Brownings, who were like two kind of legendary poets in the Victorian era that have a very enticing love story. And also, Elizabeth Barrett Browning got really engaged in supernatural spiritualism of the Victorian era with seances and things like that. And this story is kind of touching on that kind of supernatural angle to the Browning story. People have made stories about the Brownings for years and usually focus only on their romance because they had kind of a forbidden romance, which is really interesting content for stories. And what the writer of this book found was not a lot of people have told it accurately, number one. And number two, when going over the Browning's letters, found this whole narrative of this character, Sophie, and her kind of apprenticeship under like a spiritualist to try to kind of manipulate Elizabeth Barrett Browning. So it's this really fascinating story. I'm really pumped to be working on it. I'm really behind on it, to be honest. So we're going to be working on roughs and thumbnails for page 96 of this brilliant story, and hanging out and working on comics on this lovely Sunday. So I hope you guys are having a good day. I hope that, you know, if you guys are artists or writers, that you're pulling up whatever you're working on so we can all work on stuff together. If you're listening, don't feel shy about participating in the comments section. If you want to help me out, don't feel shy about super chats. Super chats are greatly appreciated, especially right now. And basically, other than that, we're just going to get into it. So let's go over to our daily stream. Boom, this thingy. And this is where I've compiled all the research that I need for this page. And right down here, right above my obnoxiously big logo, is the script, the section of the script that we're working on. So I had already, throughout the week, kind of broken down these thumbnails, like what I need for my thumbnails, and we're just going to dive right into it. And then I have a bunch of research as well. Good morning, Gary. How's it going, buddy? I hope those classes I hope you're through them. Are you done with the classes? I hope so. I know Gary, our friend of the show, Gary Hodges, who does Dinosaurs versus Mars Bots, which is brilliant. And if you guys haven't checked it out, you should. It's probably one of the best. I'd say like kind of spooky. Is it science fiction? I don't know if I'd call it science fiction. I just call it like very like X-Files-y vibes story about these incidents in which Martians or Mars bots are kind of slowly appearing in different spots of the country in different eras of time. Um, and it usually they're very character based stories, and so I relate to those quite a lot. Gary said, "Done with classes? Yes, for now anyway." Nice. So what I'm going to be working on is this, and then we'll just be talking about different stuff. As a musician, I wanted to say I'm doing some pretty interesting stuff today. I'm going to be going over to my friend Josh's, and we're going to be working on trying to like finish a song because I have a week off, and so we're gonna kind of take advantage of the fact that it's like one of the few times. Usually we play music on Sundays, but this is one of the few times where we can probably do it for a little longer than like an hour or two, which is what we usually do every week. And so I'm really excited about that. And then we're gonna try a challenge to ourselves and see how far we can get towards like just inventing an entire album on Tuesday, just as a challenge to see if we can do it in a day. And I'm gonna see if I can record some stuff. The problem is whenever I do music stuff, I always think, oh, I'm gonna record and document this and stuff and provide content for YouTube. And then I get into the zone of like writing music and I forget to film. Like, so it's hopefully I'll remember to like film some stuff to provide a little bit of content for you guys too. For those of you who are interested in my silly little music endeavors. But I'm excited about that. So we're doing that at 2 today. So I have till 2 or till like 1:30 ish to get as far as I can on this page. So that's what we're going to do. Um, and then I'm trying to think of anything else that's worthy of note to kind of bring up. Um, yeah, I mean, I just will say it has been a month of adjustment of like career changes and stuff like that, and so I have been off my game. I will say this week, I think the start of some positive things, like for my own personal habits and like self discipline, have happened. One is for like 3 months, just for you guys who don't know this, like for about 3 years. I've been really consistent with exercise because as I've gotten older, I've more and more realized like how important exercise is, right? And mostly for like cardio and stuff like that, and for your overall like energy from day to day. At the age I'm at, you have to be doing some kind of exercise. Like it becomes fundamental. You either start kind of eroding or you maintain. And in order to maintain, you kind of have to do some cardio. So it's like I've been pretty consistent with that and like very mild weightlifting. This is not like gym bro stuff. This is more like, you know, dad workouts, you know. But I was consistent with that for 3 years, and then because of a lot of changes and shifts and stuff like that, and again, no excuses, but it just I allowed it to be an excuse to not exercise and stuff like that. And then I fell off my game with the graphic novel, with my freelance, with pretty much everything. I've just been kind of like uh, adjusting to the new career and adjusting to like all the shifts and stuff like that. And honestly, I've gotten kind of lazy. And so to me, what I thought was a really good thing this week was I finally like starting last weekend was like I'm done with excuses. I'm going to do my exercises. So I've been consistent throughout the week on exercises. I've been semi consistent with the graphic novel. Like I need to get back on the train. So I've missed a few days where I should have been working. As you can see, I was doing a little bit of work, but it wasn't quite where I need to be. And then I have also on music been doing scales and paradiddles, just practicing paradiddles because it's a good like exercise where you're kind of alternating hand movements, and it kind of helps your brain like exercise like using like two rhythms at the same time. So point being, I feel more on task and more kind of ready to kind of get back in the flow of some self responsibility. And I need to like continue that. And the only way to continue that is just hold yourself to a higher standard. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And again, you know, it's going to be a slog to kind of get back into it. But yeah, Jake said I've had a slack week like that too, Josh. Yeah, and for me, like the exercise thing, it's been 3 months. Like it's been 3 months of just no exercise, and just kind of chaos with like working on the comic when I can and stuff like that. And I have to think about it like, what would I say to a cartoonist who was like, yeah, I'm tired from work. I just blah, blah, blah. Like I've had so many times in the last, like, 20 years of doing this professionally where I would hear that from like a student or something. And I'd be like, yeah, you have time. Come on. Like, how much were you watching TV? Right. Like, how often were you doing these other things? And you have these conversations, you realize, oh, there is time. It's just like you need to build the discipline to do it on the daily. And here I am, like the last like 3 months, and I've been like the perfect example of not practicing what I preach. And so yeah, just being candid, being open about my kind of struggle the last few months. And again, I'm really blessed. Like I have my health is in pretty good shape. Like, not everybody my age is like blessed with these things. Like I have a great family. Things are relatively stable. Like financially, we're kind of okay at this point. And so it's like, there's like, I have no excuses. Like I need to be working. The main excuse is just being exhaustion and honestly like low morale, right? Like I had a little bit of low morale for the last like 3 months as well. So all of that is stuff that I myself can fix, and I really strongly believe in the idea of willpower, because if you set a target and then you back plan it, a lot of things are possible. I'm not going to be like the secret person and say that if you set an objective, anything is possible, because I think sometimes that's not true. Like if I wanted to be a pro basketball player at this point in my life, that's not going to happen. Like, but if I wanted to suddenly, like tomorrow, take up playing basketball, I could probably get better at basketball, even at my age, just by practicing and really targeting some objectives and having a little bit of self discipline. So yeah, so that's my little rant before I get into work. So no more meandering and wasting time. Let's get into making comics. Gary said, my attitude about exercise is a lot like doing your art. You have time. Anyone has an hour a day if they want it. Yeah. And exercise doesn't have to be what I've found, at least for myself, like the stuff I was doing for like 3 years. It's not a lot. And like Gary said, it's like about an hour, and it's led to me like whenever I had like a health checkup or had to go to the doctor or something like that, like it's led to weird things that I've never experienced in my life. Where like a doctor would look at like my heart rate and stuff and be like, "Do you work out?" And I'm like, "That's so weird." Like I've never been asked that in my life because I've been like a scrawny little shrimpy guy my whole life. And it was just because like my stats, like my body was being conditioned, not in like a like Arnold Schwarzenegger like building giant muscles, but just like taking care of what's going on in there. It actually has an effect on your overall health, and also your energy levels, right? Because like when I'm not exercising, I find myself like napping all the time and like just being exhausted, constantly. Whereas if I'm exercising, I'm like slightly exhausted. I'm still a dad, so it's like, I'm always exhausted. I think that's part of being a parent, but it makes me a better person. So it's like I think that's the kind of thing I'm kind of interested in. And like Gary said, it's like an hour a day max, maybe like 40 minutes or 30 minutes. Sometimes it's just a half an hour, but it's just doing basic cardio and a little bit of weightlifting just to kind of keep you know yourself conditioned and stuff. And like I and not condition, I'm not talking like conditioned like sports people, but just keeping your body prepared for life. So I'm going to be doing that consistently, and now I'm going to be breaking the cycle of like kind of not following what I preach about comics, because it's like it's been like 3 months. It's there. The other thing is, like, when I was young, like when I was like early 20s, late teens, I had this like slump of like 2 or 3 years where I was just in a hole, And one thing I will tell you from my own experience is like, there's kind of two ways you can look at things, like generally like opportunities, or you can look at them as like a sink, like you've stepped into quicksand. And and the way you kind of perceive it, at least for me, I should stop saying you and just say for me, the times in my life where I've been in like a slump where I didn't have a lot of like personal progress uh or really like find myself achieving a lot, it was when I would put myself in a mindset of like, well, I'm already deep in this swamp or whatever, and I'm just gonna sink like the further I get, like, so it's like I feel like any steps forward, I'm just gonna like get buried. Whereas like if I start perceiving things, and I know this is like corny, but it's like if I start perceiving things as like more like, no, I'm just at like the bottom of these steps and I just have to like trudge my way up. Like eventually I will move where I'm trying to head. If I perceive things from that objective, then suddenly I actually start making progress. And sometimes it just seems like impossible, but it just like things actually happen when you look at like an end goal and then back plan it. So that's kind of what I'm aiming for. Um, and yeah, and Gary was saying it's like eating healthy, just trying to do more than nothing at all. Yeah. Um, yeah, and I'm not even going to be doing like exercise every day. I'm going to be doing alternating every other day, and that's what I kept consistent at for 3 years. And if I can do that again, I think things will be good. But it is funny how quickly it all can collapse if you just allow yourself to like get, or if I allow myself to get like bogged down in the mire rather than just kind of keep swimming. I remember we had a guest on Artcasters once that I thought, I can't remember who said this. Maybe Gary will remember, but somebody was talking about how being an artist is like being a shark. You have to kind of keep swimming. Like that's it. You just you kind of have to keep moving or you start sinking. And that's just the way it goes. So anyhow, that was a lot longer of a rant than I thought it would be, but that's what's on my mind. That's what I'm kind of working on, trying to be a better person and be progressing and moving forward. And part of that is let's get back to this comic. So um, let's go over the script. It's been a day or so since I've worked on this, so I'm going to review the page of script that we're working on, and then from there I'm going to review the notes that I took. Just to get my mind fresh so I can do the other, what looks like 3 panels that I need to do in thumbnails. And the nice thing is I have a pretty good start here where they're fairly tight thumbnails. And so that'll make the roughs go a lot quicker, but let's find out. So page 96, on the Casa Guidi terrace, Wilson lays out a simple meal on a table for Robert and Elizabeth, who cuddles Pen. So we've got Elizabeth with Pen on her lap. And we've got and I broke that down. It's like that's panel 1. Wilson is laying out a meal on a table. Robert sits across from Elizabeth, who's cuddling Pen. And then there's a book on top of the table. And I wrote that because eventually he lifts. So Robert holds up the book. So let's read the next part of the script. Robert holds up an elegantly bound volume labeled Aurora Lee in one hand. With the other, he raises a wine glass. And what he's going to be saying is, to my wife, would I were half the poet you are, or yes. And then Elizabeth is saying Robert. So that's basically what that panel is. And then the next is Robert going to be saying, I take consolidation. The critics have only one Browning to mock, because just a backstory. Robert, at this point in the story, has published what's now considered his best work of poetry, but at the time was just an utter failure. So he spent years working on this poem that's like a story. He had this whole idea of taking poetry and making it like a long prose book. It's like a big, doing an epic poem that tells like a fiction kind of story. So it's like a novel of a poem. And it's considered like a work of genius now, but at the time, like critics were just like, this is awful. Like it's not poetry, stuff like that. So Robert's dealing with that. He's been mocked by Home, who's the spiritualist. So he's, you know, but he's taking it on the chin and saying like, well, hey, at least the critics only have one Browning to mock because he doesn't feel good about his latest work. And then he's going to ruffle Penn's hair. Elizabeth's going to smile at him, amused. Wilson's going to enter with a letter for Elizabeth. And then Wilson's going to say, from Miss Arabelle, I thought you would want it straight away. Then Wilson's going to hand the letter to Elizabeth, and Elizabeth's going to say, thank you, Wilson. So that's what we're going to be working on. So panel 3 is Robert's ruffling Elizabeth's hair, and he's saying that I take consolidation thing. And Elizabeth's going to be smiling. So fun times. Okay. Let's see here. Roughs. But yeah, it is a funny thing how even for people, like, I would consider myself a very self-disciplined person, and even for somebody like that, it's so easy to just have it all collapse. And a lot of it's mindset, as weird as it is and corny and woo-woo as that sounds. A lot of it is mindset, and shifting mindset and stuff like that. So let's see here. We are going to have, I will say, if you guys haven't watched the last Artcasters, make sure you do. A friend of mine from grad school, to kind of explain in grad school, and we'll work on this while I'm talking so that we're getting some stuff done. So this is Robert's going to be ruffling Elizabeth's hair and saying to my why I take consolidation. The critics only have one Browning to mock, and he's going to be ruffling Penn's hair. So where was I going? Oh yeah. So when I was in graduate school, you kind of build a bond with the people you're in grad school with, because at least in art, like, there's studios on campus that they let you have, right? And so you have your stuff all set up in this room, and there's like maybe 5 or 6 other students working on their MFAs on the campus, and they're a variety of different kinds of artists. So you'll have like people painting, people sculpting, people doing like mixed media, stuff like that. But the one thing kind of bonding everybody is it's like a very challenging time for your perception of who you are and what you want to do as an artist and why you're going to grad school in the first place. And it really is it really is like a very defining moment, I think, for a lot of artists, like when they're working in grad school and you're kind of in the trenches with these 5 or 6 other people. And so you develop this really cool bond where, and also an admiration, because you're getting energy from all these artists working, because you're seeing them kind of try new things and like level up and start making discoveries. And then that in itself kind of influences you and inspires you to do art and do better. And, I mean, it's a really cool thing, because you also kind of witness these people like develop like new styles and tread new territory and kind of overcome their own kind of hurdles and stuff like that. Anyhow, point being, our guest that we had on Artcasters was one of those people. Like, she's super talented, and had, like, kind of evolved like this really unique, interesting style of working. And I got to see a lot of that in the stage of like it developing and evolving. And it was really inspiring, to see. And it was cool to have her on Artcasters, because I really feel like she has great work, and it's fun to like show you guys some people who are just doing a very different style than the kind of stuff we usually show on Artcasters, or the kind of artists we'd usually have, and much more in the kind of fine art direction, but still like very illustrative, and just really skilled, interesting, inspiring work. And that was really fun. So we had her on Artcasters on Thursday, and I encourage you guys to check that out, because it's inspiring. And also it's just really cool work. So check out what we did for Thursday's art casters. Let's see. I was gonna have him. I just feel like this expression's kind of dull. Okay. And then I think I just got a message, so I got to go check out what that is. Oh, maybe not. Okay, I thought I was getting a message of some kind. Awesome. Okay, it was just Corey showing off his sauna that he's building. Okay, so this is going to be Robert kind of leaning forward. It's tough because I put him across the table, so I'm like, I think he's going to have to be. Let's see. This is going to be an interesting positioning. I think here he'll be ruffling hair or whatever. And again, this is just a rough, so or a thumbnail even. So we're just going to have him kind of reaching forward to. Maybe I'll have like the arm a little less bent. And let's see here. We'll have I need to loosen up too. What is he saying? Oh. Okay, so he's kind of saying I take consolidation. So maybe he'll or consolation, not consolidation. He's a loan officer. I don't know if you guys knew that about Robert Browning, but he's a loan officer. He's consolidating loans. No, he's taking consolation in this thing. But I think no, that's too. I'm trying to think of like his acting here, and I think his hand should be kind of out, like palm up. Um, ugh, what is it? What does it need to be? You know what? Maybe it'll be more of like a casual hand, but I want his hand kind of up. Maybe it's a cross. You know what? I know what we'll do. We'll do hand on table still. And which hand was holding the book? See, this is tough because the script has him holding a book, and the next moment he's ruffling his kid's hair. What happened to the book? As if he's holding a wine glass and a book and ruffling his kid's hair. How are you like? There's no transition between that. And I don't want it to look awkward, you know? Because that book's just going to disappear. It's going to look like the book just disappeared. So I have to kind of indicate that the book's been put down. And at least that solves my hand issue here, where it's like, okay, his hand's going to be over here. He's reaching across the table, so he's going to be leaning back. Wow, I am drawing terribly today, guys. Look at this monstrous Robert. He's a big fella right now. Okay, there's his wine glass or whatever. The book should be kind of here, maybe. The book could be like here. And then we can have pen kind of. Oh my gosh, what an awkward. It's just an awkward. To me, this is an interesting set of stage directions by the writer where I'm like, it's going to be fascinating to try to work this out. So then we're going to have pen here. I need to look at pen. Okay. So maybe pen's kind of smiling. Pen's nose is going to be a little smaller because he's a kid. His hair is getting ruffled, I guess. It's hard to translate in comics. Okay. Here's Pen. Okay, Pen's going to be kind of leaning forward a little bit. Have the ruffling of hair. There you go. Do. And actually, that kind of works. And then he'll be kind of leaning into it so it doesn't look like he's like ripping his head off. Okay. We're working on panel 3. If you guys haven't yet, by the way, hit that like button. Make sure you hit that bell so that you get notifications when we're about to go live. Paul Pate is joining us. Paul, how's it going, buddy? I hope well. So, okay, we're going to have him kind of leaning forward. I think maybe now I'll have him with his... Maybe he's leaning on the table, like arm on the table. Yeah. And then we'll have Elizabeth... Elizabeth's just smiling at him, so maybe Elizabeth's more in the foreground. It's a weird one to work out. That's why thumbnails are so great, because you can just kind of work out your scene, work out your characters, try to make it less strange. So this was going to be Elizabeth smiling at him, amused. So I think maybe we'll do... Yeah, I think that kind of works. And then we'll have her kind of... Still got Pen. Christopher said, 7 viewers and only 4 likes. Who is slacking amongst these fantastic people? That's a good question. If you're one of the 7 that's slacking, make it happen. Christopher, how's it going, buddy? How go the one-page comics? I feel bad because I've been kind of absent from watching some of your streams as of late. And a lot of that has to do with some of the stuff I was talking about earlier on my stream, where I have been in utter lazy pants for about 3 months. So I'm over my lazy pants stuff, okay? I am over it. I am now self-disciplined pants. Taken off the lazy pants, put on the self-disciplined pants. I don't know why pants, but yeah, that's just what it is. That's what is going on here. Okay, there's going to be some stuff on the table. Christopher said, I am now at around 320 this year despite having pneumonia. Oh my goodness. Do you currently have pneumonia? I hope you're recovering okay. And then Gary, in response to the 7 viewers who aren't liking, Gary said, I don't know Christopher Runciman, but I'm judging them. Yes, if you're one of the viewers who hasn't clicked like, you're slowly being judged by Gary Hodges. So this is going to be him saying, I take consolidation. Actually, this kind of works. This was a weird pay. Like, I know it may not seem like it, but this was a really weird one to figure out the actions for, you know? And then we're going to have Wilson off the panel here. So Wilson's not going to be in panel. But this is going to be saying, I take consolidation, blah, blah, blah. Or no, he already said that. So this would be... Oh, yeah, this is. I take consolation. Why do I keep wanting to say consolidation? I have finances on my mind, guys. Okay. And this is going to be still on the in that like in basically this environment. So we're going to have our veranda kind of thing here. We're making it happen. And a little awning, and we'll have our background. I can do view extras. I don't need to see those guides right now. And we are just rocking and rolling. Down to the beach, I'm strolling. Do you guys remember that bad lip reading Yoda song? It's one of the best things that ever existed. A seagull land on my head. Okay, Christopher said, I do, but I am doing an easy vampire impression by being pale. Imagine a much taller Paul Rubin from Buffy. Nice. So are you just kind of sitting around like, ugh, ugh. That's one of the best death sequences of all time is Paul Rubin's death sequence from the original Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie. He dies for like 10 hours just going ugh, for like, yeah. Okay. Panel 3 done. Wilson has to enter now. She has to enter Sandman. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Anyhow, Wilson's gonna enter with her letter. We got Wilson. I thought I had Wilson stuff here. I do. Look at that. That's Wilson. My wife was joking that I should just have her be a like a volleyball with a face drawn on it. Like Wilson from Castaway. Just for like one or two panels, you know? It's like a just it's just a little volleyball head. Every once in a while her head just turns into Wilson from Castaway. Okay. So this will be Wilson holding a letter.
Wilson, I'm sorry, Wilson. That scene was so sad.
That was a good movie.
A broken man right there. Talking to a volleyball.
Maybe that's like the big twist at the end of the script is that Wilson was a volleyball this whole time. Like they thought they had a maid. They've just been like really just delusional on an island. Yeah. Like home is just ends up being a home that they live in. She's got a letter. All right, Wilson. Rock that letter, Wilson. You can do it. Also, wasn't the neighbor in like I never really watched this show a lot, but there's like a show with like some handyman guy who talks to his neighbor over the wall. Wasn't that neighbor's name Wilson?
Yes.
So maybe every panel I have Wilson, she'll just have like a fence in front of her. I'm trying to think of other Wilson references. Wasn't there like a band in the 90s called Wilson Phillips?
Yes, they're awesome.
It was like a girl band.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else? Maybe every once in a while Wilson will become Woodrow Wilson. I want her to have like Okay, so here's the letter. This will be like a kind of nicely folded letter. Nice. Christopher was like, Josh, you know full well you have Wilson Phillips CDs. Shh, don't tell them, Christopher. That actually would be a good bit. You have like a guy who's like in, like the hardcore regalia, like, with all the patches and spikes and all that stuff. And then like on the back, like, so on the front, it's like agnostic youth and like all these like hardcore punk bands. But then on the back, there's just like a cutout homemade patch that says Wilson Phillips. That would be amazing. That would be the most hardcore person on earth. The back, like bobby pinned, like safety pinned patch, that's like torn on the edges. He's got like a screen printed Wilson Phillips. That would be the coolest. That right there is the most punk rock person on the planet. Is the person who has that punk regalia. Exactly. Okay, what do we got? From Miss Arabella, I thought you would want it straight away. Did you? Did you, Wilson? So this will be Elizabeth here. That's a strange little noodle there. All right. She's looking up. We have the table. Maybe we just have like a glass just to kind of signify this table. They're trying to get Bernie out of the backyard, but he's in like hunter mode. Probably hunting down a squirrel in the backyard. All right.
He didn't know me. He didn't know.
There's our Wilson bringing the letter. Wilson Phillips Chandler. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, Christopher was saying it's stitched right next to a painted logo of Metallica with Cliff Burton lives. Yeah. So like they're like cut like metal fans, but then also Wilson Phillips. En Vogue is no joke. En Vogue was amazing. My wife was saying she loves En Vogue very proudly, and I will admit to liking En Vogue. I'll admit, yeah. Hey, every once in a while.
I also love Metallica.
Yeah.
I love Pearl Jam. I love Smashing Pumpkins. All kind of stuff. But I also love Al Green.
Every once in a while, I'm in the mood to like listen to some hardcore punk, and every once in a while, I'm like, straight up, now tell me, do you love me forever? But you guys know, what's going on. All right, guys. We have 3 or 4 of these. 4 of these suckers done. All right, guys. There we go. We got that. We are going to take a very brief break so I can get some coffee. I encourage you guys refill your cups of coffee, get your art out. Let's all work on stuff together. So I'm going to play a trailer, and then I will be right back, and we will rock the last fifth panel of this, which actually should be pretty simple. So we're gonna get into this. Here is the trailer. Let's do. It's been a while. Let's do Wordzoid by Jim Lujan. All right, I'll be right back. Oh, here it is. Okay.
Well, Peter, since I'm such a big music fan, I'm gonna have to go with Karen Carpenter. Oh, Stu, I'm sorry. That's the incorrect answer. Trish, what you got for us?
I'm gonna go with Kim Gordon.
All right, let's check that answer. Kim Gordon. Do we have a Kim Gordon? Yes, and that means you're our new Wordzoid champion, Trish. Dale, tell Trish what she's won. Trish, you've won a copy of 2 stories, a memoir of faith and mental illness. Handwritten, hand-drawn, and handed to you by artist and writer Joshua Kemble. But wait, that's not all. You've also won a copy of Jacob's Apartment, the story of a doomed romance. What happens when you take eternal sunshine out of the spotless mind and put it in a blender with Ghost World? You get Jacob's Apartment, written and illustrated by Joshua Kemble. Trish, thank you for playing Wordzoid.
All right, great job, Trish.
I was told I was gonna get a lifetime supply of paper towels.
You hear me now? Can you hear me now? Okay, good. Okay, I think I just got the audio set up. So if something weird happened with the audio there. You know what it was? It was probably just too much hardcore. Like StreamYard couldn't handle the hardcore of Wilson Phillips. I'm gonna mess with the next time I'm talking to like a student or something that's really into hardcore. I'm gonna mess with them and be like, I'm really into hardcore cuts, like deep cuts. You know, I don't know if you've heard of like Wilson Phillips, but that is as hardcore as it gets, my brother. All right, so here we go. We've got our last one, which is Wilson hands Elizabeth Barrett Browning a letter, and Elizabeth says thank you. So we're going to have Wilson handing Elizabeth a letter. So maybe we have Wilson handing Elizabeth a letter. It's our weird little thing here. And I think we'll move her back a bit. Actually, I like her leaning forward a little bit. And let's have her. There we go. I kind of like that. Again, just thumbnails, real quick sketches, just trying to get the movement and stuff. So here she's handing her the letter. Cow. And then Elizabeth can be saying thank you. So that's pretty easy peasy. And maybe we have Robert's in the foreground here. Okay. And maybe we'll have like a little bit of the table. Maybe no table here. And then we'll have Elizabeth saying thank you. With both hands, she'll be grasping the letter. Is Elizabeth wearing... Yeah, Elizabeth's wearing like her long sleeve thing. I love it. Christopher was saying, maybe ever say, you like Metallica? Have you checked out TLC? The most metal song ever was Don't Go Chasing Waterfalls. Easily. It's right up there. You into Slayer? You into TLC? She looks a little demonic in this little sketch here. Okay. We're just kind of working this out, and then we have you know what, it's going to be a one-handed grab because she still has her arm around Pen. Do 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 do. All right, so we got Pen here. You know what's interesting? So Penn Browning, it's an interesting kind of unusual name, but then I was remembering there's Penn Jillette, right? And I'm wondering, do you think Penn Jillette was named after the Brownings kid? Because I don't know if Penn is, maybe Penn's a more common name than I think, but it's such a unique name, you know? But then I was remembering, oh yeah, Penn and Teller, it's not that. I don't know. I don't know, guys. This kid's head, this kid looks like Satan's child. Look at him. He's like, yes. Yes. Open the letter. Yes, you shall. You shall open the portal to another world. Yes, mother, open that letter. Yeah, that's a good point. Chris was saying, I wonder if if he has a cousin named Pendulum Guillotine. I like it. You know what's crazy? So I'm a guitar nerd, as anyone who watches my channel knows, right? So every once in a while, I keep an eye out. Like I always keep an eye out on Goodwill, on like Craigslist, on OfferUp, you know, just in case. You never know. Maybe one day, you know, I'll open it and there's somebody selling like a 57 Les Paul for like $100, and I can be like, haha, I got the find of a lifetime. Something, you know what I mean? it's probably never going to happen, but it's always fun to just kind of keep an eye out. So every morning I'll kind of check the listings, right? And the other day I'm looking on OfferUp, and there's always like weird stuff that just shows up there, right? For any of you who don't know, OfferUp's like an app where people can just like put stuff up for sale. It's like an eBay, but it's like more local based usually. And somebody had put up a guillotine. Like they were selling a guillotine, like a fully functional guillotine. And I'm like, who put that up? like I mean, it might be cool to own a guillotine, but like who's gonna like put that up on offer? Like I don't know. I was just trying to think, like, is this a history teacher? Is this a historical reenactor? Or is this a psychopath? Like it'd just be a weird, or maybe they're a magician, because I'm trying to think, other than like a history teacher, a historical reenactor, or a psychopath, you know who's gonna, or a magician, who would own a guillotine? I don't know. I mean, I do remember in school, there were like projects occasionally where you had to like rebuild something. So like, you'd have like, I don't know if you guys ever did that, but we had like, I remember in elementary school, we were learning about like the gold rush era, and you had to like, for a project, you could like do a bunch of things. But one of the things you could do is like recreate like a little gold panning machine, like, I don't even know what it's called, but it's like a box with like these little like water flows through it, and then like these little like shelf things like stop the rocks from flowing, so like it helps sift like gold from whatever. But we'd make things like that. But I do remember one of the things you could make was like a little guillotine, just to like, you know so maybe it's a student, I don't know, but it was a full-size guillotine on OfferUp, and I was like, why? Christopher said, I got Johnny Cash's saxophone for a nickel. I'm pretty sure it's legit. And Johnny Cash was definitely known for rocking the saxophone. He was probably, the most famous sax player of all time. Okay, so we have our thumbnails done, you guys. We have thumbnailed the unthumbnailable. I don't know why I'm thinking of silly things today. I was just realizing, since designers say thumbnailing all the time, you know how like in movies where it's like a really hardcore executive meeting, or like, it's in the White House or something, and it's like, you better get this right or I'll nail your ass to the wall. Like that kind of thing. Well, like, what if designers were saying that all the time, but it's like, you better get this right or I'll thumbnail your ass to the wall. Like, anyhow, it's gonna happen. That'll be used at some point. And if it's used, it's copyrighted and trademarked by me. So, okay, guys, we finished the first bit. It's a good Sunday, a lovely Sunday. And we are finished with our thumbnails. So now we're going to actually go on to making these roughs. So I have my list. Where did I put my list? Where did I write that? Okay, I wrote that here. Perfect. Anyhow, the reason I do keep an eye on those used sites, though, is like there have been times where like I saw a thing where this guy was like a farmer, and he was looking in his barn or whatever that he had just bought. Like he had just purchased this land, and in the back of the barn there's like this eroded, just crappy piece of wood guitar, and he's thinking, I don't know what this is. He kind of looks, there's like a little serial number on the back, right? And it ended up being like, he found out it's a Gibson, and he's like, I guess like Gibsons are worth something. So anyhow, long story short, he kind of reaches out to a guy who's a guitar guy, and he's like, hey, I think this has some value. Would you be interested in buying it from me? And the guy's like, yeah, I'll give you like $200. And I think he listed it on one of those used sites, and he's like, I just want $200 for this. And instantly a collector was like, dude, I'll tell you what, I'll give you 300. So the collector like pays for it, drives to the farm, picks up this guitar, takes it back to his shop, cleans it up, does some research, and it turns out it's like the first year Les Paul. Like it's so this is a guitar that like it's in terrible condition, but even in terrible condition, it's easily worth like $10,000 to $20,000 for $300. So you hear stories like that, and you're like, yeah, I got to keep an eye out. It's one of the reasons. I also just have a part of me that like since I was a kid, I just love thrift shops. Like I love thrift stores. I love pawn shops. My first decent guitar I bought at a pawn shop. I love that kind of stuff because you never know what you'll find, and it's always fun. And sometimes you find something that's of no value to anybody else, but it's so quirky. It's the 90s kid in me. Like I grew up in the 90s, so it's like half my clothes I bought at thrift shops back when I was in high school. You'd never know when you'd come across like the coolest shirt on the planet, like, and it's not like it's a valuable shirt. It's just rad, like, I'm a nerd for like used things that, and just perusing like used things. It's interesting. Let's see here. And I have a bit of a deal hunter kind of in my soul somewhere, where I really like finding stuff, Okay. But yeah, to me, like going to like a swap meet or a thrift shop or like any sort of like pawn shop, that kind of stuff. I love that stuff. It's like the part of me that like, it evokes the feeling in me that when you're on a long road trip and you have like a weird truck stop that just has like odd curios, and it's like a slice of Americana kind of thing that I don't know. There's something about it that I like. Okay, here we go. So we are going to resize this. Yeah, and like thinking about it, even when I was like a freshman in high school, I remember saving up money, like mowing lawns for like a summer to get a guitar, a decent guitar. And yeah, going to like a pawn shop, and I found this like guitar that was not a guitar. It was like called a Squire 2. And it just played better than anything I had ever played in my life. And I got it for like $100, which was cheap back then for a guitar. Still cheap now, but and it was a great guitar. And like I remember playing gigs with it and people being like, where did you get it? Because it wasn't like your typical Stratocaster. It was a Stratocaster, but it wasn't your typical Stratocaster. It was like weird and weirdly built, like a weird year that like they didn't really do it again, but it just had the best tone, and I loved that thing, and the same year I also remember buying a couch from a thrift shop for like $100 and being like, yeah, I got a couch. And that couch followed me to like 2 or 3 of my first apartments, when I was younger, when I was a young man. So yep, there's a thrift store in my soul. I should write a song called There's a Thrift Shop in My Soul. All right, here we go. So we're going to get rid of this extra stuff, and we're just going to rock and roll some more of these things. I should probably explain what I'm doing. So right now I'm just doing the rough borders that will then be part of the rough. Once we get to the rough stage, which we're almost at. And then what I've done is blue lined the thumbnails. Something I've been told a lot in the last month or so that I didn't quite realize, and I guess is possibly true. A lot of people have been mentioning that I sound like Kermit the Frog. A lot of students have been like, you kind of sound like Kermit the Frog. And I've been like, that's awesome. I want to sound like Kermit the Frog. But anyhow, let me know what you guys think. Do I sound like Kermit the Frog to you guys? I wouldn't even have taken it like super seriously, except I heard it a couple times and I'm like, maybe I do sound like Kermit the Frog. That's pretty rad if I do. I think Kermit the Frog is one of the coolest beings to ever, occupy space. So, but let me know if you've ever heard Kermit the Frog in my in my tone. There's been like a Kermit the Frog vibe. Kermit the Frog. Okay, we are right now just sizing the thumbnails. Now that I have the thumbnails, I'm sizing them to kind of a little better match the rough borders. And I'm getting rid of the excess so that when it comes to, like finalizing the roughs, it'll just be a lot clearer. And kind of just free transforming a little bit too, so it fits it a little better. And then once we do that, we should be able to go over these and hopefully fairly quickly rock the roughs for this page. And the cool thing is, this page marks the 10th of this little section of roughs. And so what I will do next after this is finalize this set of 10. And it'll get us one step closer to 100. I'd love to hear what you guys are working on if you're listening and working on stuff this Sunday. It'd be fun to hear what projects you're working on. Okay, we have these all set to go. We're going to watch one more trailer. This will be the trailer. Let's do Philip Chandler's.
Hi, my name is Phil Chandler. I'm a freelance artist, illustrator, and cartoonist. Today, though, however, I want to tell you about a graphic novel I picked up recently called Jacob's Apartment. This book was both written and beautifully illustrated by Joshua Kemble. It is the story of a doomed romance that causes the main character to question his beliefs and his faith, while he's also going through other tragedies in his life. Every page has been illustrated by hand and digitally colored with painstaking detail. It is an emotional story that causes you to think and even question things in your own life. And while the story is a tragedy, it is one that I was completely entertained by and I highly recommend. You can currently find this on Amazon or even check in with your local bookstore and see if you can order it. And while you're at it, you can also check out my Instagram at Phil Chandler Arts and also my YouTube channel by the same name, Phil Chandler Arts. And go buy Jacob's Apartment.
All right, so we're making pretty good time. We're going to do our roughs now. And this first set is just a silent picture of them. So there's no dialogue we need to do, but we're just going to kind of go through here. And weirdly enough, I think this rough might actually be fine. So I might just, let's see here. Might just fill this part black. No, you know what? We'll be less lazy. I can tighten it up just a little bit. So here I'm going to do, let's just start from Elizabeth and work from there. So this will be Elizabeth. And we're going to just do like use our blue lines as like a structural thing and then kind of work from there. I don't like that hairline. There we go. Still kind of try to keep some looseness with the drawing here. And just kind of build it from there. And we're rocking and rolling here. So Elizabeth's going to be wearing this kind of thing. Her arm was a little weird, so we're kind of correcting it a little bit. Her hand is going to be here. And she's wearing her thing, so that'll work. And we're going to do our pen. Pen's going to be here. He's going to have his long hair, kind of like his mom's. Our Victorian era wine glasses that are kind of interesting. And again, this is a rough, so it's just a little bit tighter than the thumbnail so that, you know, basically the publisher can know what I'm trying to do here. Then we're going to have our, now that I think about it, let's take a look at Pen's. Yeah, I think Pen should actually have his legs here. I was just realizing, like, he has nowhere, like, where are his legs going, you know? So he's going to have his legs there. Elizabeth's going to have her dress. It's one of those tiered dresses. She liked to wear those. And then we'll do her chair. Check again how those terrace chairs look. Okay, they're kind of rounded. Got it. So the terrace chair is going to be sort of rounded, have like a little swirly bop thing here. Okay, cool. And then we're going to have Wilson here. And Wilson's going to have her darker haircut, kind of hair like this. Her bonnet. And fix that shoulder. And this is just the rough now, so it's just clarifying some of the things from the thumbnail, right? That'll be the pups. My wife and her sister are walking one of the dogs. So then we have Wilson's kind of coming in, and then we're gonna have like this bowl. And then we're going to have our Aurora Lee copy of the book. It should be kind of ornate. And another wine glass. And I like Robert here. I think I did his eye a little too low. Robert's got his kind of wild hair. And this is just clarifying a few of the things from the rough, you know. I don't like how I did his eye there. We'll just do something like that for now. Okay. And then he's going to have like his long coat kind of going. And I need to see that table. I think table's going to be kind of one of those. Okay. And then we'll have the chair here, the swirly bop things. And that'll be across here. And then we'll have our background. And this is going to be mostly just a fence or like kind of thing. And then here have our guides or whatever that are going to be for the background. And just kind of block this in so it's a little easier to do as a final.
Did you tell them about your piano thing?
I did tell them about the piano thing a couple episodes back. I haven't been able to show it off, but I will try to do like a little thing.
Weird looking.
Yeah, it's a weird looking little organ. It's called a chord organ, and they were really popular, I think, in the 60s and 70s. But yeah, I picked up a chord organ for like super cheap for like $10 from a thrift store, actually, talking about thrift stores. And that was super fun. Like, I can't wait to record something with it. So I'm bringing that over to my friend's house.
I thought you ordered it online.
I did.
Oh, is there a thrift store?
Yeah, you can. Goodwill has like online orders. My wife was asking. She was like, "I thought you ordered it online." I'm like, "Yeah."
Was there more than one?
There's been other ones sometimes, you know.
It's weird.
But yeah, because I think they were popular in like the 60s and the 70s. And then, you know, just a lot of people just gave them away because they're like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this thing. And I'm like, haha, let me have more junk. More music junk? Yes, please. I have been thinking about getting a drum set. This is not something I'm going to get anytime soon. But if you guys know of... If I were to get one, I'd want to get an electric one so I don't annoy my neighbors or my housemates, particularly my son and wife. May would be fine with it, with loud drums all day. But no, like drum sets are really loud, so I was thinking about getting like an electric drum set. If you guys have ever played electric drums, let me know if there's a good kit you would recommend that's very cheap. I want something cheap that I can just learn drums on. Because that is a weakness of mine, is I cannot play a drum set. And it would be fun to learn.
It's very cheap.
Maya was saying there's a cheap one by Play School. Some of those kids' drum sets are pretty decent, but I'd like an electric one just to practice, learn the craft on. So we're just doing our rough here. I'm just establishing some light sources and stuff like that. Again, this is real rough. It's not like, I'm not making the Mona Lisa here. Which, by the way, is not a great portrait. That's my hot take. The Mona Lisa is not a great portrait. It's a great background for a portrait. It's pretty good use of pigment. But it's not my favorite.
It's not my favorite either, but it's pretty.
There's something a little spooky about the Mona Lisa. I'm probably jaded. It's probably like the Sweater song by Weezer, where it's like, it's a great song. It's a really good pop song, but I can't stand listening to it. It's just, I've heard it so much in my life that I'm just like, I don't know if I can do this. And it's a great song. It's a great song. It's like Matt Sharp rocking out. It's hard to do that. Okay. So now it's going to be Robert saying, to my wife, would I were, which is an interesting, very Victorian way of phrasing things. Okay. Let's call this, okay. Let's see here. To my wife. My wife. Would I were half the poet you are. And again, we're just doing roughs here, so it's just, polishing it up a little bit for the publisher, right? And for the writer. Is what still around, hon? Oh, the Ollie G show? I don't think so. But he's still been doing things. He's like acted in a lot of movies too. He was in that, I think that Scorsese flick. The one about the kid who lives in the clock.
Yeah, that's an old movie.
And then he was in a movie about hitmen, I think. But he's done a couple bits. He did a lot of stuff during I think the last thing I saw him do was where he dressed up as that like country singer. That was a couple years back. But it was at like a Trump rally or something. But he is very funny. I really enjoyed the Ollie G show back in the day. Okay. So again, we're just kind of going through just polishing up the roughs a little bit so that they're a little easier to see. This is Aurora Lee, which is a book that Elizabeth published at this time. And then it'll be this will have like this really pretty binding. Okay, and we're gonna just rock that. There's the bind. And now we're gonna do our toast. It's gonna be that same kind of hand up for the toast. We're not making this perfect, we're just making roughs. Oh, and this was going to be her saying Robert, which I actually should have here. And this will be her shoulder. Okay, and this will be Robert's suit. He's somewhat leaning forward. He's raising a glass, so I can get rid of that glass that I had in the rough, which doesn't make a lot of sense. If he's raising that glass, why would it also be on the table? These are the questions a sequential artist has to answer. It is funny how hard that is, though. Like, it's shocking. I know I've talked about it on here before, but it's shocking sometimes when you're working on comics how often like little easy mistakes are so easy to make. Like somebody has something in their left hand, the next time you draw it, it's in their right hand. It's like just little sequential errors that are so easy to make. And then once you start making sequential art, you'll start noticing in movies when those things happen. Because like you make those mistakes and then it's like, okay, you have to be really cognizant of not making those mistakes. And then you start seeing it in movies where somebody's like holding something in their left hand or they have a ring on and then the next minute they don't have a ring on and then the next minute they do. Speaking of, Robert should have a ring on. But yeah, it's like it's funny how easy it is to make those little sequential errors. You have like a radio in the corner of a room and then the next panel you forget to put the radio in there. Just like basic things. But it is shockingly easy to err. Okay, so that's going to be it for tightening that a little bit. It doesn't look super tight, but we're going to go ahead and shade it and then move on. I'm not particularly happy with that eye on her, but again, this is a rough. It's establishing what we need. It gives us all the information we need. And to me, that's what I want to see on these roughs. Because the rough and the thumbnail, this is figuring out your staging, a little bit of your lighting. For me, one of the key things is it's kind of figuring out my acting. Like, what is the acting on this page going to be? You know? And also kind of figuring out like the emotion. So you're trying to kind of convey the emotion of the second or the minute or whatever it is that is happening in the story. And I like that. I feel like this is conveying the emotion. I feel like it's not that weird. Like we get the fact that Wilson's exited this scene now. I'm gonna go ahead and save. We're gonna play. Let's play Frank's Adventures at the Library and be right back.
Our heroic adventurers fought orcs, monsters, sorcerers, necromancers. Now they find themselves in front of a mystical library. What shall they find? It's all in the roll of the dice. We've come this far. There's great power behind this door. I can feel it. We just have to get past it. This door is no match for my axe. I shall chop it down. You always want to use brute strength. Why don't you try knocking? We'll try it your way. You may enter. The library is open to all those who seek knowledge. Feel free to look through our tomes. Maybe you'll find the answers you seek. I sense great power here, and it's behind those shelves. Indeed, there are powerful items hidden behind these shelves, but you can only get there through the enchanted words. Do you have those words? I believe I do.
Tremble before the Crembo.
There is great power. Look at that glove. Must be so powerful. That is not where I sense this power. I must get closer. I found them. I found the sacred manuscripts written by Joshua Kemble. Behold, I now possess 2 stories and Jacob's apartment. Please tell us more about 2 stories and Jacob's apartment, and who is Joshua Kemble? Xeric Award-winning cartoonist Joshua Kemble is a freelance artist, graphic designer, and author. 2 Stories is a confessional graphic memoir that grapples with questions of faith, mental illness, depravity, and ultimately redemption in a fallen world. Jacob's Apartment is a coming-of-age graphic novel in the vein of Ghost Road and Fun Home. It weaves together the threads of spiritual faith, identity, purpose, love, and loss to create an engrossing world in which waking and sleeping dreams collide. You have made your choice. The passage is now closed. Wait, can I get that glove? No. Oh. All right, let's go.
All right. I had forgotten how long how long that is, but I really appreciate it. It's like that's Frank Salazar submitted that a couple weeks ago, and that made my day. And if you guys are ever out there and you want to submit like a little cross promotion, like your own ad that will both mention 2 Stories in Jacob's Apartment, as well as where they can find you and stuff like that, that would be great. Frank did not mention where to find him, but I will recommend that you guys check out Roll for Tarako, where Frank posts quite frequently, or Salazar Art Nation. He's the moderator of this channel too. And so Frank is greatly appreciated, and that is one of the funniest things that that's come my way in a while, probably since Jim's submissions. for those two. And Jim's done quite a few like pretty incredible commercials for this channel as well. So anyhow, I appreciate you guys, all you guys that are subscribed, and all the people who make this thing happen and make our little like YouTube community a lot of fun as well. So now we're just going to be again just kind of filling in, like making this a little more coherent. It can still be loose and sketchy, but just try to kind of clarify what's going on here with the thumbnail underneath, and then we're going over it and making roughs basically. So that is what we're working on for page 96 of Not Death But Love, the Strange Supernatural Story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning. And let's see here. This was going to be Elizabeth's hand. And we've got... So I wanted to also say the way I work, a lot of times, like some people when they're doing roughs and stuff like that, they'll pull up like photo references and stuff like that. I tend to like doing just my roughs, like kind of freehand, not a lot of reference, not really looking at a lot. Like if I'm looking at reference, it's more for like costumes. And from there, it's like I'm gonna basically use my roughs to gather photo reference, so that I better know what to take if I'm gonna take reference pictures. I better know what to kind of like look up or research if I need tighter reference photos and stuff like that. But it's basically just giving me the idea of the acting of the characters, the staging, things like that. That I can't like that's going to save me a lot of time on the final, because the whole point of like thumbnails and roughs is to like, it's not to redraw the same thing over and over again. It's to basically like really like loosely, without a lot of cost, try out stuff, right? You're kind of working out your image and your composition and stuff like that. And it's like when you get that, it really does save a lot of time. And it's funny because I remember when I first started taking more serious like illustration classes and design classes and stuff like that, roughs always felt like a waste of time, which is so weird to think back on. But I remember being like, I just want to get into the final, right? This is just my memory of it, which is weird to think back on because it's like so nice to have roughs. It's so nice to thumbnail things. It saves you so many errors because a lot of people will just go straight to final, and then, end up with compositions that just aren't really working. And they have elements that are really nice. Like, if you don't rough out a portrait, let's say you're drawing from life, and you don't kind of start with like a rough or a thumbnail, or like, just start loosely working out your composition and just start going to final, you'll end up with one of those drawings where you have like really cool, like detailed eyeballs, and that's it. It's like the rest of it's just wonky madness. And it's kind of the same thing with comics, where it's like, by being more meticulous in the planning stage, it really saves you a ton of work when it comes to the like really refined stage, where you have to really like bring your chops out and like start, rocking. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to a little bit later today where I'm going to be playing some music with my friend, and it'll be fun to see what we come up with. One of the things I like about doing music too is it's a very collaborative effort. Like it can be a very solo effort. Like you can write your own stuff and stuff like that. But when you're playing music with other people, it's very much like a practice of, it's almost like improv, where you have to do a lot of like yes ending, where they'll contribute ideas, you contribute ideas. And if you kind of play off each other when that's happening, you end up with something really cool and sometimes way unexpected. Like sometimes it's something you never would have made yourself, right? And that makes for a really fun, creative environment. It's very collaborative, and I enjoy that process of it, especially compared to working on a graphic novel where it's like, it's not as much collaboration. It's more just like, this is the vision. This is what's going to happen. And so it really is like a very lonely job, I guess, would be like comics are just kind of lonely. Like you even if you're working with other people, a lot of the work is just you on your own in front of a page. Maybe you're like me and you're like live streaming some of it, but at the end of the day, a lot of the work, a lot of the journey is a very solo journey. And that's one of the appeals of it too, right? Is like you have like a lot of control over it, but one of the nice things about the balance of like doing music as well is music is not, with a band or with a collaborator, it's not, it's a very much more involved collaboration. And there's a flow to it, there's like a flow state you kind of have to allow yourself and others to get into. And there's a very like unjudgmental part to writing music as well. You have to be, at least what I've found is you have to be very open to kind of whatever comes. And like, sometimes that's stuff that like, is very vulnerable. Sometimes it's stuff that's very silly. It just kind of depends what comes out, like, and I love that kind of spontaneity of it. So it has intention, but spontaneity and expression, which I like. So we are just working out this rough a little more, just kind of getting these things dialed in just a little bit more. And then we're gonna again just add the shading just to establish a little bit of what the environment's going to be like, the lighting is. And then we're going to have this done, and we're halfway through our roughs. And the nice thing is, because these thumbnails were so kind of tight, it's like the roughs themselves shouldn't take an incredible amount of time. But you guys can quote me on that like 2 hours later. It's like anytime I'm doing art, I'm like, this won't take much time. And then it's like 3 hours later, 4 hours later, it's like, well, that wasn't that bad. So we're almost there. We're almost done with this rough. We're almost getting into the other stuff, which will be fun. There we go. That's going to do it for panel 3. Now let's move on to panel 4. So panel 4 is Wilson saying, from, what is it, Miss Arabelle? Oh, 1L. I thought you would want it. Oh, let's correct that. So it should say straight away. And we only have 2 panels left to kind of rough out. The thumbnails are all there. And because the thumbnails are there, we've got less kind of work on the back end to kind of figure it all out. This is going to be this.
Oh no. Please. I don't want to. You don't want to? We're not going anywhere today, are we?
This is going to be the letter. Her hands are out, sort of almost like serving the letter. And we're going to have our wine glass here. There's a tray that had like these almost like dumpling type things. So just sort of show that that's there. And this will be Robert. We'll have... Okay, and then Elizabeth. Definitely have to kind of fix that cheekbone a little bit. That is the weirdest side profile I've ever drawn. Well, not the weirdest, but that was a little off. So let's see here. Okay, and then we'll have our background here. It's going to be that kind of terrace. Building here. Whoa, my Photoshop is like slowing down. It doesn't want to catch up with my brushes. Okay, so I'm gonna save. It might be a good time to like hit save so that it doesn't lag and delay. And similarly, like we're gonna have our kind of thing going on here. Cool. Okay. Now I'm going to add some shading here. And that'll get us a little closer to where we need to be. This is going to get significantly darker down here. Very dark terrace. Okay. Whew. Jim said, I want to speak to the manager. I love it. I am the manager, Jim. Okay, what do we got? Can I speak to your manager, please? Where's your supervisor? Where is your supervisor? Okay, anyhow. And then she's going to be saying, thank you, Wilson. Thank you, Wilson. Well, thank you, Wilson. All right, so we got Elizabeth doing her thank you, Wilson. I'm very excited to work with Jim. We're going to be doing. I was really pleased to find out that I get to do another voice in a Jim Lujan cartoon. I've been honored to do one. I was the cool pastor in Pleasure Beast, his cartoon. And now he's going to have a character that's pretty much me in the 70s. It's like 70s Josh. And I will be one of the last people. Well, I will be one of the last people to have talked to Fungus. Mink Fungus, the legendary jazz pianist. There's a few people who are fortunate enough to talk to him right before his disappearance. And one of them is me in the 70s. Gary said, I have entirely too many voices in Full Fungus, giving my relatively low talent, but I'm delighted to be involved. Yeah, Jim was saying you can share who you are playing, Josh. Yeah, I am playing me. It's going to be really fun. And since you guys, know that everything Jim does is biographical, it's all historical fiction. Most things actually happened in history in Jim Lujan cartoons. I actually am much older than I appear. I've been in, around for a while. And so in the 70s, I used to hang out with, in some seedy bars, talk to people the likes of Mink Fungus all the time. It's just been me. That's the way I've been. Jim said, Chris Ward is stealing voice jobs from Gary Hodges. Chris Ward, I'm glad. Are you having Chris do voices? Because, man, Chris is like did I just say born? He's born to be a voice actor. He's born to be a voice actor. Like, Chris is hilarious. I would say Chris Ward is one of the funniest people, like just naturally funniest people I've met. Like without even seeming to try to be funny, he's just hilarious as a person. Great storyteller. That dude could tell you a story about like going to the grocery store to buy chicken, and it would be the funniest story you've ever heard. And nothing crazy would need to happen. He's just a really good storyteller. I love that. But if he's doing voices in Full Fungus, that's a great idea. Runciman Ward Hemsworth. Nice. But that's cool that Gary's doing it too. So it is literally just. I will tell you guys, the stuff I've seen from Full Fungus, it is so incredible. It's like I feel like Jim just ups his game every time he does a cartoon. Every time he does an animation, it's like a little more ambitious every time. And this Full Fungus, it's like, yeah, it's definitely it's kind of unbelievable the level of work that's going into it. And I'm sure it will be, like all of the Luhan verse, very funny. Gary said it's an all-star cast. And Gary was also saying that his performance as a waiter will be Oscar worthy. From what I hear, the performance I'm most looking forward I can't wait to hear Scott's performance. I think Scott Strickland is going to be fun to see. And then I will say what I've heard of Corey Kerr's character is going to be very fun. I'll say character with a question mark because maybe it's characters. You'll have to find out. Oh, Jim, I was going to say, I think because you have a 335, I should have had you on episode 335 playing your 335. I missed an opportunity there. Jim Luhan has a guitar. I think it's either a 335 or a 338. They're all called 335 style guitars because they're all modeled after the 335. But I think it's a 338. So maybe for episode 338, we got to find out what model of guitar that is, Jim. All right. Just doodling, guys. Just doodling away. But getting work done. Valuable, important work. This is life-saving work we're doing here on the Joshua Kemble live stream. Some people say that doctors save lives, veterinarians, nurses, firemen. I'm doing life-saving cartooning here, guys. Life-saving. It's very vital work. I think we should start doing that. What do you guys think? I think all of us artists should start pretending like art is as important as like being a surgeon, like a brain surgeon or a heart surgeon. It's like you guys don't understand. We're changing the world and saving lives with these doodles that we do. Start having guests on Artcasters that are like humanitarian workers and being like, I totally get what you're saying. When I'm doing my drawings And they're like, I'm talking about curing diseases all over the world. Yeah, I know. And I like to think when I'm working on comics, it's like really curing diseases in third world countries, you know? That's how I like to view my cartooning. We'll have like Cartoon Aid, where like Jim and I can do some music in We Are the World fashion. It's gonna happen, guys. That's one thing I feel bad for the newer generation. Has no idea like how many of those like weird like Live Aid type things like happened in like the 80s and the early 90s, where it was like musicians being like, we're curing the world of everything. Being like singing songs that are like, you know, teaching the world how to be tolerant and loving to their brothers. We should bring that in comic form. Like, what's the comic book version of like Live Aid? We need to do it. We need to do it. Okay. Here we go.
Hey Josh,
Yes.
this light isn't on.
What's on? What's not on?
This one light isn't on.
Oh, okay. I gotta fix it. It's just the cord on it's like weird. One of my lights went off because the cord's all janky on it. All right, guys. I think weirdly enough, I think we're done. I think we're done with our stream. I want to have a little more shadow here on Robert. But I think that's going to do it. Jim was saying I'll have to buy a 337 guitar. You have to now. It's you just, there's your justification. You're like, I need it for the next episode. Jim said Dr. Gary Hodges saves lives. Gary might actually save lives with his career, you know. All right, guys. That's going to do it. Thanks to everybody who watched this stream. We finished the rough. We got through it together. And I hope you guys had a productive Sunday morning. I'm going to go eat lunch and then play some rock and roll. I will be live streaming more often, hopefully. So I will see you guys on the next one. If you haven't yet, hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the bell so you get notifications. Yeah, that's basically it. And I will see you on the next one. Goodbye.